Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, we're going to revisit the maintenance phase, but this one might be a little different because I, as somebody who has been fat most, if not all of my life, realistically, really I got fat at like 5 years old. I would say that I don't actually think The Biggest Loser was a positive thing for most fat people. And so I'm coming to this from a similar position as the maintenance phase. So maybe this time there can be a little bit of common ground, or maybe we will be able to meet in the middle. So I'm very interested to see what they have to say. I'm interested to talk about The Biggest Loser anyways. It is something I did want to cover, and this should be fairly interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hear the horrible music from my dreams. Let's go ahead.
Everybody, welcome to Maintenance Phase, where we are taking your 2000s TV obsessions and exploring them with an uncomfortable level of detail.
Ooh! Is this one going to be about Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Is that what you're saying?
Look, we're going to talk to you about Angel today, and you're not going to like what you hear.
I am Michael Hobbs. I'm a reporter for the Huffington Post.
I am Aubrey Gordon.
Okay, that was actually funny. That intro was actually funny.
I am an author and columnist for Self Magazine. You can also find us on Patreon. We are at patreon.com/maintenancephase. That is also linked through our website and in the show notes. The same goes for t-shirts, which you can get through TeePublic.
You are beautiful. Yeah. I'm going to do that every time you mention the Patreon from now on.
Please just do as many Christina Aguilera impressions as you want.
And today we're talking about The Biggest Loser.
I'm very excited about this one, Mike. I'm like equal parts excited and like a little bit of dread because I
feel the same way about listening to this. Just because it's been a minute and I'm really interested to see what they're going to say. Like, I want to know if they will have actual nuanced takes, if they will actually say something valuable, or if it will be the same BS that it usually is.
Looked into enough of The Biggest Loser to know what an absolute horror show it is, but I also know that you are going to do deep dives that are going to reveal things to me that I maybe wish I didn't know.
I was actually thinking this morning that we need to somehow come up with like a content warning broad enough, like all hands on deck enough for this fucking episode.
Oh, really?
This has everything. This has like eating disorders, terrible calorie shit, horrible fat phobia. There's like a dead kid at one point. Like this episode is dark, dude. Like, I like doing this show because on my other show it's like You're Wrong About, and we're like busting people's preconceptions, and on this one it's like if you think The Biggest Loser is trash, like it's trash. Like we're not gonna blow any minds today. Like it's maybe the most damaging television show ever.
I just don't know. So listen, I don't know enough about the history of TV to know this, but I do know that like there are not many TV shows that have like a hospitalization toll.
Right.
And I also will say, like, I come to The Biggest Loser not from having watched it regularly, but from having been someone who was like a fat person when it was on and seeing.
Okay, so I did actually watch it. I enjoyed it a lot when I was younger. I would say, is it horrible? Is it all these things? Yes, but maybe not for the reason that they think it is. Out the gate, I will just say that honestly, my impression of The Biggest Loser is that it made weight loss seem so incredibly difficult and so impossible that it was something that a lot of fat people watched, so they didn't even try to lose weight because of how awful it looked. And I know that a lot of thinner people may hear that and they may think, what? You know, like seeing people overcome challenges and seeing this type of stuff, like this is really, really important, or this is very motivating. But for a lot of very, very fat people, it just does not have that effect. It makes things look impossible. And you see it and you're just like, oh my gosh, like these people are struggling so hard, or look at them. They're at that camp and they're able to lose 20 pounds in a week. I can't lose 20 pounds in a week. It was a very, very bizarre effect where you would look at it and say, they are able to do so much more than me, but also they are all dying, crying, and suffering all the time. And so it was just a lot, because it gave this impression that really, one, you couldn't lose weight on your own at all. People who left the ranch usually gain the weight back or barely lost anything, especially if they got off, early on in the show. The other aspects is it makes you think you have to really, really suffer all the time to lose weight. And it inflates your expectations of weight loss. So then when you do try, you don't see those numbers and you think, gosh, like, well, I just need to go on The Biggest Loser. Like, I wish that I could be on that show so I could actually lose the weight, because only people that go on that show can actually lose the weight. It's very weird. There's definitely a doublethink aspect, or there was a doublethink aspect in the minds of fat people that were watching that show. And ultimately, it was something that demotivated people and really made people feel like it could not be done, essentially. So that's how I'll start this. Let's see what they say.
The ways in which Jillian Michaels, who was sort of the rising star trainer,
yes,
who would just absolutely scream at people. And it wasn't just raising her voice. It was like, I don't want you getting off that treadmill until I say you get off, or unless you're dead, or you know what I mean? Just horrifying.
Yes, but that's also the 2000s. The 2000s, people were a lot harsher. It was just the times, everybody was really mean back then, period. So, one of the most popular TV shows at the time was House, and House is literally an asshole every single episode. And it was just, people loved it at the time. It was just, certain things are within trend. So let's not act ridiculous already. You can't judge it based on modern standards because of the time it was in. That type of thing was on trend. And I never particularly liked it, but a lot of people did at that time.
Buying stuff like that.
She's the meanest, yeah.
I feel like what I saw at that time was a number of other people who were not fat getting enlisted in that as work that they could do that would somehow benefit fat people. So, that's my dog in this fight.
One of the academic articles...
Okay, it's interesting that she is framing it on how it affected thin people's views, or it made thin people feel that they could do something like that, like Jillian Michaels. I didn't even think about that. But I guess I'm just too busy thinking about the issues of fat people, I guess. I don't know. I didn't even consider that.
I read has a list of quotes from Jillian Michaels. Do you want me to read them to you?
Oh, I don't, but I do. What you got?
These are so brutal. Okay, I don't care if people die on this floor. You better die looking good. I'm proud that I made him vomit. If you don't run, I will pull Alex on the floor and I will break every bone in his body. I don't care if one of your legs falls off or if one of your lungs explodes. The only way you're coming off the damn treadmill is if you die on it. It's fun watching people suffer.
Ugh.
Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, I can understand some of those criticisms for sure. Like I told you guys, for me, I would rather die than have somebody talk to me like that when I'm working out. It is hard enough to go to the gym, to do all this stuff when you are, struggling anyways, being really, really fat. For some people, they like that. I don't. So I can understand that. I will say it was entertaining to watch, though, which I think was the biggest point. But yeah, a lot of people like that. And I do think there is a point within weight loss where you do have to get to this state where you say, just do it. And although I don't agree with the way that they were working out, the diet they were doing, pretty much anything about it, I will say that that is an aspect of weight loss where you have to just do something, because a lot of times it's never going to be perfect. And as long as your parameters are reasonable and healthy, it's fine. You're going to be fine. So I can kind of see both sides of it. And I think too, a lot of fat people, they don't have any consideration of their physical capabilities. And so those types of situations for certain people in certain circumstances can actually be really empowering. Like, I remember this one time when I was a kid and I was going up a rock wall. I was climbing a rock wall, and it was very hard for me because I was very fat. And I was terrified, and I felt like I couldn't do it. And it was really dramatic when I was going up the rock wall. I mean, it's me, right? So it's dramatic. But it was like a journey. But when I did make it to the top, like, I felt so incredibly empowered that my body was capable of doing that. However, I did not have Jillian Michaels yelling at me, right? So I think there's different elements there. I can understand why she does what she does, but I disagree that it's effective. I don't think it's effective. I think it would be more effective for somebody at a smaller size. Let's go ahead and continue.
This is why we're doing the content warning. It's like, this is like as bright and sunny as it gets, this episode.
Okay, we don't need to do, it's really cheesy. Like, I'm assuming that you guys are all adults and you can handle discussions about topics. This is ridiculous. I hate the infantilization that they do for their audience. It drives me nuts.
Let's say, if the trigger warning didn't get you.
I know.
That little list of quotes, like, just podcast switching off.
What we're basically saying is, under no circumstances should you listen to the rest of this episode.
Yeah, definitely don't listen to our podcast, guys.
No one is prepared for how terrible this is.
Okay, so this is them just morally judging people, acting like they're above everybody, but this is what they always do. Look, I don't know, like, grow up. Difficult things happen in the world. Like, this isn't even like one of the most traumatic things. This is just somebody at the gym. It's like, come on. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't. Somebody that is so extra that they can't even handle hearing for somebody to get on the treadmill or something. It's like, it's not a, I don't know. I don't get it. It's not you on the treadmill. Like, I don't know. I would not like being yelled at by Jillian Michaels, but seeing her yell at somebody else, it's like, whatever. You know what I mean? They signed up for it. I don't know. And they would fight back a lot too, which, to be honest, it was good TV. I'm sorry. I have to keep it 100 on that front. But anyways, let's continue.
So before we get into the actual content of Biggest Loser and the never-ending horror show that is the rest of this episode, we should first establish how big of a deal Biggest Loser was. The Biggest Loser was, for years, one of the most popular reality shows on television. So at its peak, it had, I believe it was 10 million viewers.
I was a viewer. I liked it. I didn't watch every single season, but I did watch a lot of it.
Per episode.
Jesus.
It spun off all this marketing and licensing. So there were like Biggest Loser fat camps. There were
I had the Biggest Loser book. My mom bought it. I wonder if I could find it, but I think it's gone. But I remember looking at it later and I was like, this is not good advice. Because it's just, from what I remember, it promotes like extremely low fat, low calorie eating, which is similar to like Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is less extreme, but Biggest Loser was extreme. It was very, very low fat, very low fat. And there's a lot of problems. I think when you eliminate any macro, it causes issues, no matter what it is. It's just, it's an imbalanced diet and it's not going to be sustainable for the average person.
Loser, TV dinners. There was, of course, all this other merch. You could get like workout, nutrition, diet cookbooks. So at its peak, the Biggest Loser franchise was making $100 million a year off of ancillary products.
Yeah.
That's
People
crazy.
are desperate to lose weight. If you promise people that you can have the results of the people that you're seeing on TV with only like whatever this steamed broccoli recipe, people will fall for it. And in the 2000s, they did. The show was on for 17 seasons.
Jesus Christ.
That's like Simpsons numbers. And also as just sort of a glimpse of how mainstream this appeal was.
I will say, though, look at the fallout of the show, right? So this is how I will criticize it. Look what happened after The Biggest Loser. The rise of fat acceptance and a lot of these types of things. Like, I do think it's definitely connected. And I don't think people always consider the pendulum swings of things, which they can always swing back. So that's why you don't want to F around and find out, no matter what is going on. But in the end, it doesn't really matter which way this pendulum swings. Fat people are always losing because you're either being told extremely unrealistic diet and exercise plans because it's an overcorrection, or you're being told that you shouldn't lose weight because it means you hate yourself and it means that you hate everybody fat in your life. And so then you should just pass away from obesity-related complications. So either way, you're losing and you're not losing weight. That's the other part of it. Most people within this conversation don't ever lose weight. And that's really important to consider.
Michelle Obama appeared on Biggest Loser twice.
What?
Yeah, because she was doing all of her childhood obesity stuff. Twice, dude.
I'll tell you what, every part of me loves and appreciates Michelle Obama except the fat part of me.
I know, man.
Where I'm like, oh no, I love you so much. Why you gotta?
We're eventually going to do an episode on her, and it's just going to be us going, the whole time. Like, I like her. I want to like her. It's just this huge blind spot.
Yeah.
Just,
Whoa.
So I have a complex structure for this episode.
Ooh.
But before we...
It's very interesting. That was interesting for me to hear. I think it's interesting just because, like, I don't know, like in their minds, they can kind of, like, they're obviously from a different generation that can look at people as a sum of their parts. Rather than like Gen Z, they would immediately want to cancel Michelle Obama for being a part of that or something. If they were within fat acceptance, they would like probably throw her out, you know? So it's kind of interesting because you just don't hear that type of line of thought as much anymore online. Thanks, Gen Z. I'm just kidding.
get to that, can you walk me through, like, what does a typical episode look like? Like, what happens in The Biggest Loser?
So The Biggest Loser is a season.
Let me see if I can recap it. You show up to, they show the camp or the ranch. They have some kind of challenge or something. I remember sometimes there'd be like a temptation and there'd be drama. They'd show footage of them in the gym, somebody being dramatic, throwing up, somebody crying, right? Like the whole thing. They do the physical challenge. And for some kind of like benefit in the game, like, oh, you can get 5 pounds off your weigh-in or immunity or something. And then at the end of it, they would weigh the teams, and then whatever team lost less as a percentage, they would send the person, like they would vote on who to send home. I think that's everything. I'm very proud of myself if I got that right.
Long reality show competition. It's not like Chopped, right, where there are different competitors every episode. They are all fat people. They do an initial challenge that gets them some kind of advantage in the final challenge.
Yeah.
And then every week they compete to see who has lost the most weight.
Yes.
And they get on a big scale, quote unquote scale. I don't think it's actually really a scale. I think it's a TV set.
Oh yeah, it's fake. I mean, various contestants have said that like they get weighed backstage beforehand, and
Yeah, it's really cheesy, and it goes beep beep beep, beep, and it's like really dramatic and cheesy. And then every time they're gonna go to a commercial, they show somebody being like, and it's like, and then I will never forget. My mom told me one time that she's like, the editing of this is so fake. She's like, that person could have just farted or something. And they show her face looking like that. I don't know why, but that stuck with me. That stuck with me, mother, for probably 15 years. I never forgot that. But yes, it's very constructed.
they stand on like this pedestal, which is not a scale, and then the numbers appear on screen.
Yes. Totally. They are required, is my understanding, to take their shirts off for that weigh-in.
The women are in spandex and sports bras, and the men have their shirts off.
So there's like quite a bit of like leering.
I forgot about that. And then I would be like, I remember I would watch it and I'd be like, I could never go on the show because I could never take my shirt off on there. Like, I would just rather die.
At fat bodies. Like, there's part of it to me that feels very, very much like a freak show that is dressing itself up as...
But that's how all shows about fat people are, to be honest.
Redemption.
Yes.
The appeal of the show is you get to see fat people pull themselves up out of their own wretchedness.
Yeah.
So at the end of the show, you see they...
I don't know that people viewed it that way. I think they just saw it as, like, good TV, a challenge... I heard a lot of thin people would like put it on when they were going to the gym or something, or like working out. I don't know. Like, there was a lot of different reasons why people watched it. It's not like, it's a competition show. Like, it's a physical competition. Like, people love that stuff no matter what it is. So I don't know. I don't know that people viewed it as morally as they're acting like. Again, I think they depend on their audience being Gen Z or something. Like, they depend on people who don't remember the past at all. But I do remember it, and I don't think people viewed it that way. It was just more so like good TV. It was dramatic. There was hype, right? It was good editing. People liked the trainers, like, they were good on TV. Like, it was just very entertaining, honestly. That's why it was popular. It was super entertaining. This is making me want to watch it again. That's probably not that is probably not what they were intending, but they're kind of like making me hyped for it again. It is not good though. It isn't, but it's like, it was good TV. And that's the thing, like, the 2000s had some of the best reality TV. Like, I will always say Paradise Hotel is one of the most ingenious reality TV shows that have ever existed. And that was like from the early 2000s. And I watched it when it like was replayed on, I don't know, I think there used to be this like Fox reality channel or something on DirecTV. This is like really, I'm having to dust off like the 2000s part of my brain listening to this. But anyways, there was some really, really good reality TV in the 2000s, period.
Step onto these scales wearing as little clothes as possible. You see their big numbers flash up on the scale, and whoever loses the least amount of weight gets sent home.
Really?
And their scores can be adjusted based on the advantages that they...
Oh, I thought that they voted. Ooh, did I make that up? I don't know. Why? Maybe just all the reality TV is just like... Oh my gosh. It's too much.
Got in the earlier challenge. So like if you win a challenge, you get an extra 3 pounds or something knocked off of your number. So it's like mostly a weight loss thing, but also... They do these little sort of challenges along.
No, they voted. She's wrong. They voted because they lifted up those little dish thingies. And they're like, I'm sorry, Dave. or I'm sorry, but I had to send you home. And it'd be like, pshoo, and then they'd have like the cheesy effects and they'd like lift the little dish thingy. You're wrong. Aubrey, I always want to get her name wrong. One day, Aubrey says it right here. You're wrong. You're wrong for that.
Weight loss. I don't know.
I mean, I did find a content analysis where a bunch of researchers went through and watched 2 entire seasons, which is more than I could get through. And 2/3 of the content was not sort of behavioral weight change, diet, and exercise stuff. Most of it was
drama.
Reality TV bullshit. This person is trying to get immunity, but then this person is like the runner-up, and like this person's going to vote this other person off. Like very standard reality show drama, right? And the weird selective editing where they just take a bunch of B-roll of people sitting silently and then they put intense music behind it.
Yes, exactly. It was good though. Oh man, it was good.
And they make it seem like a confrontation. That happens a lot.
Totally.
Yep.
Well, and also the thing that I remember the most from like the bulk of screen time on The Biggest Loser that I remember seeing is just watching fat people work out extremely strenuously.
Yeah, the gym.
In a way that looked dangerous to me.
Yes.
Just like dripping sweat, sometimes vomiting.
Yeah, they like the vomiting.
All of this, you're just watching fat people go through like clearly excruciating physical pain.
Yeah.
While thin people who appear to be physically fit are shouting at fat people who appear to be in extreme pain and not physically fit.
Yeah, it's like hot people yelling at fat people.
Hot, mean people.
Yeah.
And gay people. Anyways, let's continue. We don't need to get into that.
It's like homeroom. On that note, we are going to watch a clip together.
Oh, Lord.
This is a fucking nightmare. I couldn't bring myself to watch a whole season, but I just sort of jumped.
I remember it was Julian and I cannot remember the guy's name, but I feel like it was Ben or something. Hold on. I have to know. Oh my gosh, I probably got his name wrong. Trainers. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I have to know this. Like, Bob. I remember I wouldn't have wanted to be on either one of their teams because Julian was like so overtly aggressive and Bob was like super passive aggressive. So I used to like think in my head, like, which one would I rather be on? And like, I couldn't tell you. I just couldn't. It killed me. It did. It was good, okay? I used to like TV a lot in the like earlier 2000s. I don't like TV anymore, so you're hyping me up again.
Around because I wanted to get a representative sample of this show and how it changed over the years. So I would watch sort of, episode 6 from season 2 and episode 2 from season 12. And so
for the record, I loved House and I thought Chase was just the hottest guy ever back in 2004, when I first saw him. Anyways.
What I'm about to show you is the season premiere of season 7. This is the show introducing us to
my little pubescent self.
The 2 trainers, Bob and Jillian.
Oh, yay.
Hey, you at home. I am talking to you.
America, we're the fattest country in the world.
You realize that 300,000 people are dying from obesity every single year.
The stakes are high. Don't you get it?
What is it going to take for you to make that change? Quit smoking.
Take the stairs instead of the elevator.
Go.
I kind of love it because it's like the total equal and opposite of fat acceptance, right? Like it's everything that a fat acceptance activist sees in their dreams, sees in their nightmares. And it's just so like really think about what they said. Like take the stairs, don't take the elevator. It's like, if you really like process it without the emotional like of it, if you think about it, like taking the stairs, it's not that big of a deal versus taking the elevator. Like I can understand it as a concept, but I can understand as well from my experience being a super morbidly obese person, going up the stairs can be a little tough. You know, it can take a lot out of you, especially if you're like very adrenal. Like I know people don't like to hear that word, but it's true. Like it can be particularly hard for you to go up the stairs. So that's why when a lot of really big people hear that, they're just like, you know, but it's like, I would just say, maybe don't do anything on an incline, but just walk. Like you need to move, you need to walk, you need to do something that's more active. Just walking is enough on an even incline. That is something that is a lot less like, it's not as painful. It can still be painful if you're really big, but it's, for most big people, it's not that painful, and it doesn't like really get you out totally out of breath and like having a moment to walk on a stable incline. You know, even if it's very slowly, like it's fine. Like you're going to be okay. So I can understand, and there's certain things that Bob and Jillian just don't understand about being fat, but I do understand. But it's like what they're saying isn't that big of a deal. Like telling people to stop smoking, yeah, like I agree. You know, I understand that it's difficult though. But is that really a bad thing to say? No, it's not.
I'll walk. Drive past a drive-through.
Make a change.
Do something. You're worth it.
What you're about
See, I just love how like all these things are something that Aubrey would hear, and she'd have like these deep emotional visceral reactions, whereas like I hear these things and it doesn't really bother me. Like I don't go to drive-thrus, for example. I do think you should pass by it. It's not that big of a deal. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially something like that. It takes less effort to pass by something than to go to something. I think it's important to frame things in terms of, it's actually going to take you more effort to do that than to just pass by. That helps somebody that's really big or really, really deep in hypo, deep in obesity, deep in all these things, especially hypo and obesity at the same time. It can help if you bring up the sort of effort to do certain things, because people don't think about the amount of effort it takes to buy fast food. Like, think about the money you had to work for to get that. Think of how much more expensive it is. Think of the lack of energy you're going to have after, right? It's like you have to put these things into perspective for somebody so they can weigh a cost-benefit analysis, and people will make a rational decision. But instead, people are constantly told it's easy, it's cheap, it's this, it's that. Back in the 2000s, it was relatively cheap. Today, it isn't. It's actually really expensive to go to a fast food restaurant. Like, I personally would never go at this point, not just because of the quality of the food being bad, but also because the prices are just so crazy today. Like, it is wild out there.
Watch is our biggest season to date. 5 years leading up to this moment.
But none of it means anything if you're gonna sit there and eat ice cream watching our show.
See, there's nothing wrong with eating ice cream. It just has to be within a caloric limit or within an overall deficit plan. Ice cream is thyroid boosting. I've talked to you guys about that. Of course, I would never say to live completely on ice cream. That would not help anybody. But as far as junk foods, especially if it's high quality, it's not the worst. It's just very calorically dense. So, yeah. Maybe don't have the fries, have the ice cream instead. Like, they don't acknowledge that anything is better or worse. Everything with that type of dieting mindset is good or bad. There's no better, right? Or they don't talk about it realistically. The saturated fat in the ice cream is good for you. The carbs in the ice cream is good for you. The dairy has protein. There's nutrients in it. Of course, it should be of a certain quality, of course, but that would be the same with anything. But in terms of your thyroid, it has a lot of those ingredients for thyroid hormone, which is why a lot of fat people enjoy ice cream, because it provides relief and comfort from those hyposymptoms. But just have a scoop. Have 2 scoops, right? Like, count the calories, like, fit it into your plan. Like, you can do that. And you may even be less hungry if you do something like that, rather than just eating chicken and vegetables all the time, you know? But that's that mindset that just doesn't work. And why do I say that? The chicken and vegetables mindset doesn't work because it's been pushed for decades and the obesity issue keeps getting worse. It's time to think about it differently. But anyways, let's continue.
5, 4, 3, I mean it. 2, 1.
Jesus Christ.
See, that was everything Aubrey. Like, Aubrey probably heard that and she feels like she just heard the most visceral attacks on a person that could ever be said to somebody. And that's just not true. It wasn't personal attacks. It wasn't anything like that. I think the vitriol was just a lot. And then some of the sort of diet culture-y things that are not helpful were involved. But it could be helped with a bit of perspective and a bit of understanding towards something that they clearly didn't have.
Stairs instead of the elevator. Like, do you seriously think that me, as a 350-pound woman, taking the stairs?
Yeah, so she's very hefty. Does she seriously think that her, as a 350-pound woman, is not having, like, she's not having any health effects? It's not affecting her mentally at all? Does she seriously think that that's the case? Like, you know, she must be gaslighting herself on a daily basis. She must be telling herself every single day, I'm fine, 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 I'm fine. Like, I know, because I've been 350 pounds. I've been 380 pounds. And I was so fucking miserable and uncomfortable every single second. It was getting to the point where it was hard to breathe. So she must be just feeling absolutely horrible. But sure, you know, the pain of Jillian Michaels' words is really comparable, right?
Instead of an elevator is gonna make me thin? How long do you think that's gonna take? What?
It's so.
So she doesn't understand little steps going towards a trajectory. She doesn't understand that your weight is an accumulation of many choices over many years. So, you know, every time that she doesn't do that, right? How many calories would she have burned? And again, I couldn't understand the stairs thing. I'm not telling her to go up the stairs. I'm telling her to walk. I'm telling her to do something where she can be active on a daily basis. Even if it was just walking for an hour a day, do that. Even if you don't lose weight, you'll feel better. Your metabolism will improve. Your body will improve. Your insulin resistance and your insulin response will improve. Like, activity is such a huge part of what I do to lose weight. And I've lost over 60 pounds doing things this way, very sustainably, I might add. And also, I've lost over 30 pounds since March. So, but part of it is I'm extremely active, and I was active for almost a whole year before I started a caloric deficit. Activity is so important to maintaining a deficit, and people don't ever talk about that. In fact, they always say, if you're just going to eat bad, then don't go to the gym anyways. It doesn't matter. That's the exact wrong thing. You should go to the gym. You should exercise. You should have an active job. Do activity. Just don't do too much. Don't be overly exhausted. Make sure you rest. But activity is a huge part of your metabolism. It's a huge part of your insulin response, which is a huge part of your hunger response, which I'm telling you, you gotta look at this stuff. Like, activity is huge for weight loss. It's extremely important for sustainable weight loss. So even if you're just going up the stairs, like, that's something, I guess. Like, I understand her thought process, but I would say it's not about going up the stairs. It's about walking every day, getting more in shape, getting stronger, going to the gym as soon as you can and start building muscle and start getting stronger. That's what it's about. And those types of things, they could lead to you being thin over time. Way to strawman the argument, Aubrey.
I love that they threw that in there. Like, the most cliched advice, and also the advice that doctors always use as the one not to tell people because it's so fucking facile. Like, a lot of people work on the first floor of their building or on, like, the 36th floor.
Yeah.
They put it out there like it's some sort of, like, forbidden truth. And it's like, do you realize we've all been told that at least 25 times in our lives?
They also throw out my favorite garbage statistic. It's the same one that the Fen-Phen and Redux manufacturers used.
This is why I picked this clip, Aubrey.
So you can see, like, all of these sort of defenses are coming to Aubrey's mind. Like, she's trying to protect her worldview. She's very triggered by this clip, and she has it hidden under a ah ha 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 type of thing, but she's actually feeling threatened, in my opinion.
That number.
It's just like waving red in front of a bowl to show me that 300,000 number.
I was like, Aubrey's gonna fucking hate this.
Oh, I'm gonna hate it so much, but also kind of love it. So that 300,000 deaths per year due to obesity is...
See, her voice, her tone changes and everything. You see?
Completely
bogus,
completely exaggerated. The source, the person who sort of like first elevated that number has been like, please stop using it. That's not what this is. And people just love to keep using it, I think in part because it justifies the way that they treat fat people, right? That they're like, It's not that I don't care about you, it's that I care about you the most. So I'm going to be a true...
No, what you do is show that you don't care, Aubrey. You don't want any kind of answer. I've listened to enough of these podcasts. Aubrey says numerous times, I'm not trying to advocate for any solution towards losing weight. I'm not trying to have anything to do with any of that. I don't think we should try to help people lose weight. Like, she says that over and over again. You're the one that doesn't care, Aubrey. Like, don't project that stuff. Somebody like Jillian and I keep wanting to call him Ben, Bob, they care, but they may be misguided for a lot of different reasons. Or maybe they don't care. Maybe it was just about the show. Whatever, that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. You don't care, Aubrey. They don't care. That's baseline. But realistically, we know you don't care. We have to assume they don't. I would say there is a chance that they cared at the time about these people. They were just misguided. You don't care at all. You're not even trying to fix the issue. You're trying to gaslight yourself and everyone else into believing there is no issue. That's not caring. That's not loving. That's not kind. That's not helping fat people.
Trash panda.
Well, this to me encapsulates sort of why I picked this clip, because it's this perfect encapsulation in 60, 90 seconds of the show's completely contradictory tone toward fat people. Because at one side, they're saying, you know, you deserve better. You deserve this better life for yourself, right? Like it's being done out of care. But then on the other side, literally like the next sentence, they're saying, don't sit there and eat ice cream and watch this. This is the last straw. You're going to die if you don't do this. So it's like, well,
those aren't two contradictory messages. Like I said, they can be wrong, which in my opinion, they are wrong with that. But they're not contradictory messages. If they believe ice cream is really bad for somebody, then they're telling you not to eat it because they care. Maybe the belief is a little off, right? I think people lose the forest for the trees. They don't understand that what makes somebody fat is a sustained caloric surplus over a long period of time. It's not all the food that is bad. I do think there are certain foods that are bad, particularly seed oils. I talk about that a lot. Those foods are really toxic to people. But something like fat, protein, carbs, sugar even, ooh, how dare I, just like red meat, it's fine. These are building blocks for our hormones and our metabolic function. These are energy sources, but the issue is that people have too much. That's the crux of the issue with obesity, is eating too much. And while seed oils are very toxic and they really mess up the fat profile within the body, they cause a lot of issues in regards to hypothyroidism. That doesn't mean that even with good building blocks like saturated fats, proteins, sugars, these types of things, that doesn't mean you can't have too much of them. You can. Too much of a good thing is just as bad as too much of a bad thing. So I think they can lose the forest for the trees, like I said. If you feel very low energy, if you've been active all day, or you've gone to the gym, you've been working out, etc., and you have a decent quality scoop of ice cream, and it's within your caloric range or deficit, you're still going to lose weight and you might actually have more energy, or you might actually feel more satisfied. But they don't want to acknowledge that. They want to just say everything has to be this certain way, period.
You care about me or not?
Yeah, this is also where the logic of anti-fatness and the logic of sort of like weight loss, right, tips into the logic of like spousal or family abuse.
Right.
Where they're like, I'm doing this for your own good. I wouldn't do this if you didn't make me. And it's really wild to me that culturally we have all gotten on board with like, yeah, actually, for some groups of people, you have to publicly abuse and shame them for their own good.
Okay, well, there's plenty of people on the left that do that for a lot of different social movements and causes and arguments. And so I don't want to get into the weeds of that. Public shame exists all across the political spectrum, all across societies, all across cultures. This is a part of humanity, period. I don't like the framing that her side of issues, or the way that even the way that they act in this show, like they're not shaming Jillian and Bob. They're not shaming people who try to lose weight. They're not shaming people who try to think of solutions for weight loss. They're not shaming people who, etc. Long list of shaming coming from them. Just because they say it with a ha 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 tone, it doesn't mean anything. And it's the same shame. It's the same pressure. So don't act like you're not applying any pressure. You guys are. And that is very deceptive and manipulative. I don't like it when they do that. It makes me very irritated when they try to frame things that way. You guys are just as judgmental. You guys are just as controlling. You guys are just as shaming. You shame people that try to lose weight all the time. I will never forget one of the episodes I listened to where she said that people who went through actual abuse as a child only want to lose weight because they feel like there's something wrong with them. I will never forget that Aubrey said that. To me, that was one of the most telling things she said, and I will link that episode to this one. Don't act like you're above judgment or you're nice or any of these things. You're not. Don't even play those games with me. It doesn't work.
Right, that we have all sort of collectively bought into this logic that we would absolutely not stand for in individual relationships.
Yeah.
But suddenly when it's on a grand scale, we're like, yeah, no, that's good.
Also,
Yeah, I agree. I would never put up with someone like Aubrey in my interpersonal relationships. I don't like passive-aggressive, manipulative, deceptive people. I don't like that kind of person.
some of us just like ice cream, Bob.
Listen,
You know?
some of us are eating Halo Top.
This is so fucking petty, but my other beef with this clip, so we stopped before it got into the really bad stuff where they were like introducing us to all the contestants. This is season 7 where it's like the couples season, and there's best friends, and there's like a father and a granddaughter, and there's no fucking same-sex couples.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't throw some gay people in, Bob?
Yeah, you guys are gay. Yell at some gay people.
Fat gay people exist, Bob.
They literally had the 2 trainers were both gay, but that isn't enough, I guess. It doesn't make any sense. They were on every single episode. Whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. Like, to me, that is just... Again, they're always trying to lump other things into the fatness question because they want to try to get legitimacy, even if it doesn't work. Like, I get that they weren't necessarily out and all this stuff, like, for part of the show, but they also were later. So it's like, it's still, whether they were out or not, it was still representation. I don't know. That's just so extra to me.
I'm right here, Bob. Come and get me.
Okay, so the way that we're going to do this is I have 5 reasons why The Biggest Loser is trash. And
I like
we're
this.
going to walk through each of them in turn. So reason number 1 that The Biggest Loser is trash is that it's wildly unrealistic. Some of this stuff is like really obvious. The fact that it's
I agree with that. Okay, we're finding some middle ground here.
a reality show, right? Like all reality shows are fundamentally unrealistic. But I think one of the most important aspects of its unrealistic trashness that doesn't actually show up in the academic literature all that much is the kinds of participants that they choose. So the contestants on it are not a representative sample of fat people. They have deliberately chosen fat people who have like emotional eating issues, who have compulsive eating issues, who basically get no exercise, and who are extremely unhappy with their weight. I don't know what percentage of fat people that is, but
I know, but who else do you think would go on the show? Like, I can understand what he's saying, but also too, like, stop acting like there's thousands of Olympic athletes that are fat. That's not real. Is Aubrey an athlete? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. How much exercise does Aubrey get? I'd be really interested to hear that. And if she was doing a lot of exercise, I would say that's great. It will make going into a deficit easier. And I'm sure she would not want to hear that.
that is not all fat people. There's a lot of fat people who are fit and do exercise. There are a lot of fat people that don't have issues with compulsive overeating. There are lots of fat people who are just like, I am this big and I am perfectly happy with it. But we never see any of those people.
Well, why would they go on the show, especially if they were happy with how big they were? That doesn't make sense. I would say people that don't have compulsive overeating issues, they typically have hormonal issues like PCOS, hypothyroidism, etc. There's usually just a systemic overeating over a long period of time or a metabolic slowdown that over a long period of time you put weight on. But that would definitely have to be addressed differently than The Biggest Loser. I think most people of a certain size struggle with some aspect of hypothyroidism because the fat itself is anti-thyroid. So the bigger you are, you probably have that as a complication of your obesity, even if it is only your obesity causing that. it's still a complication, and one that is not talked about nearly as much as it should be.
Right. And there are also fat people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome or lipedema who can't actually lose weight in the ways that we like to think that fat people can just pay attention for a little while and drop 100 pounds, right? Like, ultimately, like, I think the thing that is easy for people to forget about The Biggest Loser, which blows my mind, but it's true, is that fundamentally their task is to make a TV show.
Yes.
That has a bunch of drama to it. Their task is...
That's true.
...is not to encourage medically healthy weight loss at a sustainable rate.
True.
That's not a TV show.
Oh, yeah. So we need to go through...
But you don't do that either, Aubrey. Let's just keep that 100. Both of you don't do that either.
...for this, but it is like the also...
And I think the same thing could be said about your Maintenance Phase podcast. Maybe you're just doing it for the show aspect.
Super duper obvious point about the unrealisticness of The Biggest Loser. Just the fact that they're literally trapped in a ranch house for 6 months and exercising 8 hours
They can leave
a day. Like, if you're going to watch a weight loss TV show, this is the worst model to try to replicate because you can't.
It's true. That is true.
Go off to a ranch for 6 months and have somebody shout at you for your entire working day. So I found a really interesting analysis online where they looked, just like collected all the numbers on the first 17 seasons. So it was 277 contestants. And this is bananas. The average contestant loses 16 pounds in the first week.
What?
Yeah. So we have to
It's a lot of water weight, for sure. I think it's because they exercise so much, so they sweat a lot, and then they also cut a lot of carbs, and they cut a lot of PUFA. They cut a lot of seed oils as well. So when that happens, you lose a lot of bloat. That's a huge anti-bloat factor. However, they tend to bloat again later because of the fat. It makes you bloat as you lose it. So you kind of go up and down within water weight when you're losing weight, but it just doesn't show as much. But you can see it on the show where, like, the next week, the second week, they lose like 1 pound or like 2 pounds or something. And the guy is like 360 pounds and he loses like 2 pounds. It's because that water kind of holds on or like rebounds, basically. It's also because you don't lose fat that fast. Like, you just don't. You have to burn off fat, which is why, like, if you're at a point where you can handle a deficit, I think you should eat at your BMR and just let your daily activity shed the weight off. I think it's better to lose weight through activity than by eating at a BMR below your, like, by eating at a caloric limit below your BMR. I think it's better to have activity take it off. That's my opinion. Other people can do better. That's just what's worked for me. That's just a perspective. And it might be something you might want to try if the other ways are not working for you. Is to just let your activity, your daily activities, burn the fat off. That's worked for me really well.
Temper this with the fact that we also know from former contestants that quote unquote week is a little bit of a misnomer. Like, oftentimes the show will call it, because it airs every week. So the show will say like week 2, week 3, even though the contestants are actually there for 2 or 3 weeks oftentimes. But they're still depicting to the public that this is a week, right? They're still essentially saying that it is possible for human bodies.
That's interesting too. That's interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of deception in reality TV. So, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. But I think they want it for that factor then. But that is interesting, and I didn't know that.
Bodies to do this in a week.
Jesus Christ.
One guy lost 41 pounds the first week.
No.
So, like, this, A, is not good for you to be losing this much weight this fast. Secondly,
it's water. It's usually water. Like, and people that are really, really fat, they can be incredibly bloated or they can be carrying a huge amount of water. It's just a factor. Like, even for me, I'm still morbidly obese. I'm easily carrying between 10 and 15 pounds of water. I'm pretty sure if I went keto for 2 weeks and I just let all the water come off, because when you do keto, you don't retain any water, I could lose probably like 15 pounds in 2 weeks. That's not fat, that's water. And the second I would eat carbs again, the water would come back. So you have to like really consider water weight. And I don't know why they're not. Let's see if they talk about it.
It's not remotely realistic without like a severe eating disorder to be losing this much weight in a week.
That's like a toddler.
Yeah.
He lost a toddler.
So there's been like various analyses of this over the years, and one of them finds that the contestants are burning 8,000 to 9,000 calories every day in exercise.
Jesus.
They're usually taking in somewhere between 500 and 1,500 calories a day.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. That is a way to give yourself extreme extreme cortisol issues. That is a way to completely trash your metabolism. Now, if you wanted to work out that much and you ate enough, so if you were eating, like 8,000 calories or something, as long as you eat enough and you sleep enough, your body can handle a huge amount of activity, but you have to get enough food and enough rest. So the way it works with hypo is if you exercise for a lot of hours, it's okay as long as you're not out of breath all the time and as long as you eat enough to replace the calories lost. If you do that much, oh hun, that much of a deficit, that is like death to the thyroid. You will shoot your metabolism in the foot. And that is why a lot of them put the weight back on after, because their metabolism is shot. Because you cannot sustain, like your thyroid cannot sustain that. Your body will drastically reduce your metabolism to survive, because that is just survival situation. Like you're putting your body in a situation where you're literally, that is starvation, starvation and exhaustion. So that is very, very bad. I would never suggest that. Like I said, don't be afraid of activity, but do be afraid of too much of a deficit. That's not okay. I had my friend Eric on my channel, and he talked about how he would go to the gym for 8 hours, and he was like eating milkshakes and stuff because he was like, I was so dumb back then. And I'm like, well, actually, like in terms of your metabolism and your thyroid and stuff, it's actually better to eat more and move more. The more you have flowing through, the better it is for your overall metabolism and vitality. So our bodies like eating more food, but they also like expending more energy. That's what you want. You want things to flow. So don't be afraid of eating more calories and moving more. That's exactly what you should do. That's beneficial for your metabolism, for your thyroid, all these different things. People don't understand that exercise can both hinder and help hypo depending on the circumstances. But you have to eat enough calories and you have to rest. That was a really long explanation, but yeah, and don't be out of breath. So I will say that. Do not be out of breath all the time. It's not good if you're hypo. It can make it worse. And you don't want to have sky high cortisol and all this stuff. But yeah, that is just egregiously bad what they're doing.
Which I also just want to say, listen, if you've ever been on one of those treadmills or ellipticals where they like count how many calories you've burned, where you get on for like an hour and they're like, you burned 2 Oreos.
I know.
Right? Where you're like,
yeah.
What? So the amount of and the strenuousness of that exercise has to be through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's damaging. Because like I said, the stress on the body that causes is incredibly damaging to your metabolism. That is why they put the weight back on. So don't think that being in a healthy, normal deficit, like I am, where I eat my BMR and then I burn calories through movement throughout the day and throughout my daily routine, through working, through all this other stuff. And then on gym days, I eat like 500 calories more because I do full body. don't think that that is the same thing as The Biggest Loser and that it will have just as much futility. It won't. If you do it in a way that makes sense, that isn't overly stressful or harmful for the body, you can sustain it. Like, you will not just gain the weight back.
And they're being yelled at by hot people the whole time, which makes it worse.
Mean hot people, which makes it unhot to me.
It makes it hotter to me, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, that's so extra. Why am I not surprised if he's spending so much time with Aubrey? He likes being treated badly. I'm just kidding. That was harsh. Sorry. Maybe I'm not kidding. But anyways, I don't like being treated badly, so I wouldn't hang out with her.
No,
but that's my own personal stuff.
We're gonna have a therapy episode.
Mike's issues
with mean hot people.
So there's all the like unrealistic.
Yikes. I would say there's a lot of people like that. I'm not one of them. Like, I don't know. I like being treated well. Like, I don't know. I know that that's like crazy, I guess. Like, I almost feel like a freak being a millennial and saying that. But I am turned on by being treated well. I know. It's a novel concept. Anyways, I don't know why millennials are like that. They just are, though. It's so weird.
Trapped in a ranch, eating, exercising. There's all that unrealisticness. But I also think underneath the more obvious unrealisticness, the show depicts a really unrealistic view of what dieting can do for you. So we're going to watch another clip. This is really rough.
Sorry,
gosh.
Not like the first one.
Oh, yeah,
this one's really rough.
This one's bad.
The first one was like a walk in the park.
So they ask participants when they come in, like the first day, they're at their heaviest, to talk to their skinnier selves.
Oh,
so
God.
At the end of the show, this is the second to last episode.
Okay. So I will say this type of stuff is horrible, in my opinion. There's only going to be a very, very specific type of person that this would benefit. And if it's you, power to you. But I would never suggest doing this for most fat people. It is not helpful. You don't want to think, like, in a weight loss journey, there's already going to be so many emotions, especially if you're an emotional person. Like, I'm a very emotional person. So there's already going to be a lot of that anyways. You don't need to do anything to feed into it further. I found throughout my weight loss that the best thing is to just be as grounded in physical reality as possible, and that has helped me. That doesn't mean that I'm not ever emotional. That's absolutely not the case. But it does mean, like, I certainly don't try to feed into that further. Just chill. Just chill. Like, I don't suggest that. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I think 5 or 6 contestants left, and they watch their heavier selves talking to them now. And so we're going to watch those.
Oh, God.
It's bad.
You know, it's been a journey, and you had to deal with a lot of pain during this process.
There's no way I ever imagined life would be like this.
That's what I remember.
I will say, though, it makes really good TV. It does. I have to admit, it does. Like, that's the reason they did it, because it's super entertaining for the audience. But I don't suggest this because it's too much. Like, I don't know. It's already kind of a big ask to, like, change so drastically, especially, like, if you're really big. That, like, all this emotional hoo-ha stuff, like, I just don't think it's helpful. I just don't. I think it's actually, like, a distraction, and it can be overwhelming for no reason. Like, overwhelming with little benefit.
Mind you, this is not what you are anymore. This is who you were.
You've already put in a lot of work. You've already gotten this far. You can keep going. There's no need to stop. Stopping is what you do at home, and you don't need to do that anymore.
Just remember the journey. Remember what you did. Remember the struggle that you did. Remember how you felt today when you just felt not like yourself.
Please don't forget all you've gone through, because this is the true you.
You're so much stronger now. You're not this weak person anymore. You're my hero.
You're going to be so happy.
So I think for me, if I were to talk to myself when I was fatter or something, I don't know what I would have said, to be honest. Like if I was fatter and talking to myself, because I was kind of like, I'm going to eventually do some reactions to some of my 2021 videos that I no longer have up, because I kind of want to show you guys like how I've talked and stuff. But I don't know, like I was just an emotional mess, honestly. And I just feel like I don't know that I'd get that much out of it. Like, I think I would just cringe, you know? But I think it's like, what I found that's helped me at this point is to just accept it as a part of my life. Like to allow the changes to occur. That's what I'm trying to do. Like, I just got healthier. And it's like I want to move forward in my life, in every aspect of my life now, because I was so held back by health issues. And I'm just allowing it to happen. And I just think about what I did in the past. I think about the person I was at that time and what I had hoped for and what I had dreamed of. And I think about how I did get to a better place than I was then. And that's enough for me. But I think about the past version of me to an extent that I love that person. And I'm so like grateful to that past version of me at this point. And that's a really good place to be. So I don't know. Maybe the emotional stuff, it can be good in some ways, but I think it's better to think back from where you are now than to hear from yourself in the past when you don't know what's coming. So, 2021 Alex, I love you. Thank you so much. Period. Okay, let's continue.
And that's what you deserve. You deserve to be happy.
The mule's hooked up, bud. Just load the wagon.
So I would like to crawl out of my skin.
I know.
Ugh.
I know.
This whole idea of the real you is thin.
I knew that would trigger her. I had a feeling. I should have called it out. I knew that would make her mad. But I would say she's got a point. The real you is just all of it, right? It's who you are today. It's who you are in the past. It's who you are in the future, right? You are always changing. So this idea that the real you is here, the real you is there, that isn't real. That's not helpful. That's actually really, I think, harmful to put in the minds of most fat people. Not every fat person, but most. Because in reality, you're still yourself every day. Like, you wake up and you're you, and you go to bed and you're you, and you're just that little bit different every single day. Like, think about it that way. You know, you're different than who you were at 18. You're different than who you were at 6 years old. You're different than who you were. Like, you're still you, but you change every day. So don't, I don't know. I don't agree with that framing. I tried to lose weight from that mindset in the past, and it didn't work. It tripped me out. I feel like it makes you freak.
Such a quietly horrific and toxic concept that
No, well, it's not any more horrific and toxic than saying you must stay the same size, or that who you are is a fat person, that you are your fat, which is much more of Aubrey's view. That is not any less toxic. That might even be even more toxic somehow. So you can even really lower yourself below the floor with Aubrey's mindset. But that being said, I don't agree with that mindset either, right? I can disagree with both, even if I think Aubrey's is actually worse. And I do want to say, I know a lot of you guys in my audience do like these people on this podcast. I respectfully do not like them. So it's totally fine. We can disagree. But anyways, let's continue.
fatter version of you, then the way that you would like to see yourself as a thin person is like a betrayal of yourself, or a failure to be your true self is like
Just remember, we're allowed to like and dislike different people. It's okay. We're different people too, right? It's fine. I have plenty of friends that have friends I don't like, for example. That sounded really shady, but it is true. Anyways, let's continue.
Most wild bullshit.
Yeah.
You know me. It's a rare thing that I'm at a loss for words.
Yes.
I'm kind of at a loss for words about this one.
All of these people.
Because you're triggered. You're triggered, Aubrey. That's why you're totally triggered.
Do deserve happiness. Like, they all seem really nice.
Yeah.
But they've just been like duped onto the show that is selling them this fantasy about this future life that they're going to have. And they've had it drummed into them even before they came on the show that sort of the 350-pound version of yourself is not yourself, and that you only deserve happiness if you're smaller.
Yeah.
Well, that is definitely putting a lot of assumptions, Mike, into what they're saying. I didn't hear any of that. I just heard you deserve to be happy. You deserve this. Like, I know that in this podcast, they don't acknowledge any of the health issues involved with obesity, but for most people that are morbidly obese, they acknowledge the health aspects on a daily basis because they feel it every single moment of every single day, both mentally and physically. I myself am in that category. I'm very honest about it. I'm honest about it with you guys. I have health complications. I have health issues due to my obesity. And when I feel those improving, I feel so happy. And like I said, that's the kind of thing that can make me cry in gratitude over 2021 Alex. It's at this point in my journey, it has nothing to do with vanity because it's just, I'm not there. Like, if I get to a point where I want to have 6-pack abs or something later on, maybe it would be. But right now, it's like very, very basic things. Like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to have a longer life. I'm going to be able to breathe better. I'm going to be able to move again. I'm going to be able to focus on a career. I'm going to be able to pursue my goals and not have these health issues encumbering me anymore. Like, these are the things that I hoped and prayed for in 2021. These are the things that I dared to dream of in 2021. I dared to dream out of a severe health crisis that year. And thank God I made certain choices then, because I am so grateful for that. So it's like, no, like, absolutely, your happiness is tied into your health. It's very hard to be happy if you can't breathe. It's very hard to be happy if you can't move that well, or if you can't fit into anything, or, you know, it's just so, like, they minimize people's trauma in regards to their health. They minimize it. They black it out. They don't have any compassion for people. They don't. That's why I don't like them. I don't like these people. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, and I hope that the people that were on The Biggest Loser never hear this episode. I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand this. I am a 350-pound version of myself, and I know it's not the real me.
I will always support the people that want better. I'm just like right with you. I don't like that some of the advice within The Biggest Loser was misguided or wrong. That I don't like just as much. But you having that dream and that goal and that aspiration, I am with you 100%. I think that's a beautiful thing. Anyways, I'm going to go back a little bit. I want to hear what she's saying.
350-pound version of yourself is not yourself, and that you only deserve happiness if you're smaller.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand this. I am a 350-pound version of myself, and I know it's not the real me. I'm so sorry I've been deceiving you all this time, Mike.
There was a tiny moment when I thought you were serious. And I was this podcast.
There was a moment when I was hoping she was serious, but of course, it's a laugh, isn't it? That would have been actual vulnerability, actual soul in her. I don't perceive any heart in this person at all. Like, I just don't. I don't see it.
You were like, oh no.
She laughs at the concept of it. So cold.
Hit bedrock.
I was going to start playing the background music. Oh, God. What I find so irresponsible about this is that this is the inner monologue that most people do have when they're dieting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at the smaller weight. I'm going to date somebody. I'm going to get a better job. Like, people extend the trend line.
Again, they don't consider anything more significant. Like, I'm going to have a longer life. I'm going to be able to pursue my dreams because I'll have the energy to do so. I'm going to... You know, a lot of people on The Biggest Loser, they have kids and they're like, I want to be there for my kids. I want to live long enough to be there for my children. It's like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm just getting really emotional, but it's like, how could you be so cold? You know? Like, am I the only one that's seeing that here? And they just block that out. They just block it out.
And they envision this future for themselves. And then once you inevitably start gaining weight.
Like, think about him talking about being around for your children in the way that he is. That's what I'm hearing.
Is that this is the inner monologue that most people do have when they're dieting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at the smaller weight. I'm going to date somebody. I'm going to get a better job. Like, people extend the trend line and they envision this future for themselves. And then once you inevitably start gaining the weight back, which
it's not inevitable,
happens in...
It's crazy. Look at that. This is abusive. And we're going to play that again.
That most people...
Look at what they're doing to their audience. This is just wild.
Do have when they're dieting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at the smaller weight. I'm going to date somebody. I'm going to get a better job. Like, people extend the trend line and they envision this future for themselves. And then once you inevitably start gaining the weight back, which happens in 95% of attempts to lose weight.
Just be sure to destroy all your dreams and don't have any hope. Because 95% of the time, people don't have any hope. People's dreams never come true, so don't try. I mean, it's just cold. It's not inevitable. They're lying. Which again, I don't like malevolent, deceptive people. I don't like those kind of people. That's why I don't like these people.
Then you feel like even more of a failure because you're losing this life that you envisioned for yourself, where you were a better father and a better partner and all this insta improvement in the kind of person that you are. And then you feel that slipping away.
And because everyone around you, usually people who have not tried to lose 100 pounds or more, are telling you how simple it is.
Yes.
So you also get the bonus feeling of, I'm not just a failure because I lost this sort of glimmering mirage of a life as a thin person, but I'm also a failure because this thing that everyone is telling me is really simple to do is something that I am not doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a point with that. That's true. I don't tell you guys it's simple. I don't. I tell you guys things from a very holistic perspective, from a huge framework, broad version, especially within morbid obesity, within super morbid obesity, a very, very different set of circumstances. I've told you guys the seasons affect how you can lose or not. I've told you guys all these different aspects. Like, there's certain workout considerations you have to do. There's certain processes. There's certain foods that may benefit you more than a thinner person, like ice cream I've talked about. And you have to think about the actual framework that you're in. Like, how many calories do you need in a day to lose weight as a morbidly obese person? Yeah, quite a few more than somebody who's only losing 30 pounds and maybe just needs to go keto and they just happen to cut enough calories to lose the weight. It's a process. It's a process. If you're very, very morbidly obese, it takes years to address the issue. That's why many people don't, because they're sold instant progress and they're told it's simple and it isn't. That doesn't mean it's impossible. That doesn't mean it's not worth trying, but it does mean it does require some compromises here or there. It requires an individualized approach. It requires you considering what needs to be done, you considering your hunger, and making it work over a very long period of time and staying as physically grounded as possible. Because people who are morbidly obese, they tend to be very out of touch with their bodies, and you need to be in touch.
I think it's really unethical to reinforce these views that basically the entire population already has. There's no examples of someone on the show being like, hey, wait a minute, I'm actually fine.
Yeah, totally.
My life is fine. I'm not a broken ass person.
And if those people are on the show, they're not showing those clips.
Oh, definitely not. Oh, yeah. So are you ready for reasons it's trash number 2?
Always.
Boom.
I thought you were going to say, are you ready for another clip? And I was going to be like, honestly, maybe not.
Let's tone those down, Mike. They're really dark.
I will totally take another reason it's trash. Let's go.
So reason number 2 is it's fake and unethical.
Uh-huh.
So one
Yes, I would agree.
of the things I really have been thankful for in the research for this is that because the show has been on for so long, we now have a couple contestants coming forward and being like, no, this was trash. Like behind the scenes, it's even more trash than it looks on TV. So are you familiar with Kai Hibbard?
I am. Twitter pal.
I heard one of the people, they were fasting so much, they weren't having any water. Like they were trying to make their weight as low as possible. And I heard somebody was actually peeing blood on the show. Like, it's not healthy. Like I always say in my mind and in my weight loss journey, I always tell myself, I'm not on The Biggest Loser. I don't have to lose the weight as fast as possible. I don't have to do that. I just have to lose it over time. And so it's not a healthy mindset to feel like you're on The Biggest Loser. Like you're not. It's not actually a competition. It isn't. It's a recovery process. If somebody is healing from a cold, do you consider that a competition? No. If you were doing like tons and tons of like apple cider vinegar shots and like trying to sweat and like, you know, burying yourself in blankets and like trying to fix this cold as a part of a competition, do you think that you maybe would do unhealthy things in the pursuit of getting better from this cold? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's the same thing with obesity. It's a symptom of greater diseases, whether they be mental or physical. So whether it's something like BED or food addiction, or it's something like hypothyroidism or PCOS, or sometimes a combination of the two, if you're really lucky. You still have to recover from those foundational diseases. Like, it's not a healthy mindset.
Kai Hibbard.
Yes.
A real dream scenario of a fat person who lost a bunch of weight and then figured out how to still be in solidarity with people who are still fat.
Right.
A dream.
So she was the runner-up in season 3, and she says that at the end of the season, she had lost so much weight that she wasn't getting her period and her hair was falling out in clumps. She had to like wear a beanie when she came home to see her boyfriend because she was so embarrassed about like bald patches on her head. Like this was profoundly bad for her being on the show. She says it's one of the biggest regrets of her life.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things that happen when you're caring for your health.
Yes, exactly.
Classic sign of health.
One thing I also thought was really interesting is, as a journalist, like one of the main things that you learn in journalism school is journalistic ethics. It's not clear to me that there's any ethical code of conduct for reality TV. It's not quite journalism, but it's like, it's not entertainment either because these are real people. But there's no like reality TV show contestants' Bill of Rights.
No, there doesn't appear to be any sort of ethical anything except for what gets the most viewers in the most desirable demographic and makes the most money.
Yes.
For the
That's true. They have a good point there.
lowest cost. I mean, that's the other thing about reality TV, right?
It is unethical. I agree.
Is if you make reality TV, you don't have to pay writers or as many writers. You don't have to pay like all of these sort of like unionized positions. You don't have to pay people.
It's a little extra. They were just trying to make a good reality TV show for money. Basically, I don't know if all this was going on. If they care about unionized positions and all that, I highly doubt that. Aubrey, it's a little extra.
To make television.
The real biggest loser is the unionized workforce of America.
Oh my gosh.
This is a quote.
Like, that's really extra. I think they just wanted to make good TV and sell a product. I mean, I don't think it was that deep, but it was unethical.
From another dissident contestant, Suzanne Mendonca, a contestant in season 2, said that contestants would go to extremes to lose weight. She said they would utilize amphetamines, water pills, diuretics, and throw up in the bathroom.
Terrible.
And claimed that Bob Harper told people to vomit to lose weight.
That's horrible. Horrible. See. Bob, that is highly unethical, Bob. Highly, highly. You do not care. So I think any benefit of the doubt that I'm having for them is gone.
I vomited every single day, she said.
Good God.
Horrible.
A lot of the contestants that have come forward, like the few dissident contestants that we know about, a lot of them said that they just had really crushing student debt and they wanted the $250,000 reward for winning the show.
Right. This is like where the show gets revealed to quietly be like the Hunger Games or like the Running Man or something.
It's a little dramatic. I mean, this is ridiculous. In the Hunger Games, they literally were killing each other. I mean, Aubrey, just stop. It's like anytime they have any shred of credibility, they ruin it. It's just, oh my gosh, it's mind-numbing.
Like some dystopian future where you're like, you just drown people in debt and then you make them lose weight on television to right? Like, it's just so icky.
There's also another thing that Kai Hibbert said. There's no
A lot of people wanted to lose weight too. It wasn't always about the money, but you know, they won't acknowledge that, of course.
mental health counseling. Like the show sort of hints that there is, but it appears that the only actual mental health interventions that they have is that all of the contestants take personality tests, like long, detailed personality tests, basically so the producers can know, are they going to blow up at each other? Like who's going to be a good reality TV show contestant, essentially. But after that, there's no mental health counseling on the show. And so in season 17, in episode 2, which was one of the random episodes that I watched, this woman was talking about how she was homeless and she was sleeping on a friend's couch and her like 5-year-old son wandered outside and fucking drowned.
What?
Yes. And she's talking about like, I couldn't protect him. I'm a terrible mother. And Bob like tries to comfort her. He says something that's actually pretty good. He says, terrible things happen to people who deserve happiness, which is like one of the only semi-human behaviors I've seen him display on that show.
Okay, that was a funny statement.
But then, this woman is obviously extremely distraught. And then he like grabs her hand and he's like, you're going to make something of yourself now that you're here. Oh. And it's like, she doesn't need to lose 20 pounds, dude. She needs fucking real trauma counseling and like maybe some like social safety net stuff so she's not homeless.
Yeah, I can understand what Bob was trying to do, but I just... Yeah, it's a little harsh. A little harsh, Scratch.
normal person with normal professional ethics would have been like, let's shut this down and like get this woman the help that she needs. Also, what's so interesting to me about the structure of the show too is it's not just that all these people are living in a house together and they're all gonna, support each other in weight loss, etc. It's a contest. It's a reality show. So eventually this woman who used to be homeless and whose son died, she didn't lose enough weight, so she got kicked off. So it's like, even as a sort of like weight loss, deal with our issues around food, exercise, that's not the exercise because it's a fucking contest. This is not how like alcohol rehab works. Like,
right.
Whoever can abstain for the longest days gets to stay and everybody else gets kicked off. Like, even if you believe...
Good point. That's a good point.
...that losing weight is imperative, being in a fucking contest is not the way to do it.
Jesus Christ.
So the last thing that Kai Hibbard said that sent me down a rabbit hole about the fake and unethicalness of the show is that she mentioned very sort of casually that in this ranch house where they're all supposed to be barely eating and they're trapped there and they have to lose all this weight, most of the food that's in the house is from products that are sponsoring the show. Ugh. It's like Jell-O and like Kraft mac and cheese.
That's really cringe. Wow. That's crazy. I didn't even realize it was that bad. That's horrible. Wow. Okay.
By far, the funniest scenes on the show are when they try to give diet advice to the participants, which are actually few and far between. This content analysis found that almost all of the weight loss that was prescribed was exercise. Like, they're just exercising constantly and they don't talk about diet that much. But when they do talk about diet, there will be scenes that sort of pretend to be like, I just popping by the ranch house.
That's true. I remember. He's speaking truth.
It's like seeing what's up with Janine or whatever. And then Bob will come and be like, Janine, did you know about this Quaker oat cereal that only has 235 calories? And like, she's very...
He's so right. I remember that.
Clearly acting. And she's like, no, Bob, I hadn't heard of it. It's like infomercial acting. They're like, that sounds great, Bob. This will help me with my needs. What are the different flavors? And he's like, maple syrup and brown sugar. Oh, wow, Bob. And it's like, really?
Pop chips are a sustainable alternative to greasy potato chips.
And you're like,
oh my
is
gosh.
anybody falling for this? Like, these aren't...
See, this I can agree with them on. It's pretty cringe. And of course, all those things, like the pop chips and all that, tends to be poofalicious. It tends to be poofa.
Food tips, like none of the foods that they're prescribing are particularly fucking healthy. They're all like packaged,
seed oil, crap,
microwaved, whatever little foods. So like, this is the
stuff that makes your appetite higher, stuff that makes you more tired, stuff that makes you more anxious. Not good. Hate it.
The double genius of the show is that not only are they making money from advertisers, but the show itself is an advertisement.
Right. This was also sort of the era when there was all this talk in TV sort of production about quote unquote vertical integration.
Yes.
It's such a weird, like, peek behind the curtain of like, it's all a profit grab. Goodbye. Right? Like, ugh.
According to a New York Times article.
Yeah, that's true. This was not about helping these people at all. Period.
The Biggest Loser.
It was about making money.
And
it did.
Most product placements of any TV show on the air in 2011. They had 533 placements.
Well, it's also one of those things where it's like, listen, the diet industry is extremely profitable.
Yes.
Even now that it has sort of changed its name to the wellness industry. There are just like a bajillion things where you're like, it's oatmeal. It's just oatmeal.
We're familiar with its work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so reason number 3 that The Biggest Loser is trash is it's abusive and horrible.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're kind of repeating them, but okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to watch a clip, but I am going to...
I would agree. I agree if Bob is telling them to throw up and stuff, that is really abusive.
I send you a really horrifying picture.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
No.
I know.
So what we're seeing, I can't remember this contestant's name.
Rachel Fredrickson.
Rachel Fredrickson. So you're seeing a before and after photo of, I would say, a mid-fat lady. And she's wearing sort of like Biggest Loser, like...
Oh my God, I love that she used the categories. I love it. I love it.
Workout shoes and bike shorts and a branded t-shirt.
Yeah.
Sassy little hands on hips pose.
They also make them look like shit in all the before photos. That's like another thing. They always have them in like oversized t-shirts.
I was going to say it's almost as if they're trying to cultivate an image.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so that's the photo on the left is the before photo, the one that like every fat person everywhere has come to know to dread. Mm-hmm. And then the photo on the right is her with her hair blown out and done and highlighted. She's wearing a full face of makeup. She's wearing like silvery, champagne-y, glittery, like mini dress, cocktail dress maybe. She looks like she is ready for like an event. And she is extremely thin.
Yes.
She's thin enough that like when you see tabloid photos where they just go like scary skinny and then have photos of, you know, Celine Dion or Nicole Richie or whoever it is at the moment, that they're sort of like zooming in salaciously on like knobby knees or bony elbows or what have you. Like that is the look that she is giving.
She's a size 0/2 here.
Jesus.
So when she started the show, she was 260 pounds and she ends the show at 105.
Yeah.
And it's 60% of her body weight.
A totally sustainable amount of weight to lose in a period of a few months.
Sort of what made this such a big deal is that they do, you know, the 6 months of the ranch, and then all the contestants go home, like the final 3-4 contestants go home, and they come back a couple months later. And, you know, you see, have they gained weight in the interim period? Have they lost more weight in the interim period? Like, can they maintain the Biggest Loser lifestyle? So she is unique and remarkable for losing a lot more weight during this interregnum period, which is when everybody else usually ends up gaining weight or maintaining. What's fucked up about this is that she obviously, like, she looks worryingly thin in this photo.
Yeah.
But this also triggers a round of people.
Isn't it interesting how they worry about somebody being underweight, but they never worry about somebody being overweight? It's so bizarre to me.
Talking about her body. Like, she ends up on the cover of People magazine with the headline, "Too Thin, Too Fast."
Right, and it's People magazine, who I would not necessarily trust implicitly with a sensitive conversation about eating disorders.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
to me, it's like, what do you fucking expect? Like, she's in a fucking weight loss contest.
Yeah.
Of course she's losing a ton of weight. Like, of course this is making her like an unhealthy competitor. Like, that's what you want her to do. It's like she's unhealthy and like we're worried about her because she's too thin, but all of the behaviors that got her there, we weren't worried about her.
Right.
Like, she admits in the interview in People magazine that she's working out 4 times a day. That's bad. Like, regardless of whether she's 105 pounds or like 140.
This is also upheld in sort of the way that eating disorders are diagnosed even.
It's not necessarily bad to be active. Like I said, it just, you have to eat enough calories to replace what you're doing, and you need to sleep enough. But it's not bad to be active. I just have to keep saying that.
Like, you and I can talk about this and know that disordered behaviors are disordered behaviors, but in order to be diagnosed with anorexia, you currently need to have a BMI of under 17.
Right.
This is one of those cases where, again, like when she was a fat person doing it, we were like, get it, go, you got this, right? We're applauding while it's on television. And then when she sort of hits a thin weight, we're like, uh-oh.
Right. And also, as long as we're moving toward the goal of weight loss, which of course is imperative, whatever the means we use to get there are fine.
Yep.
This is an excerpt
Right, which that's wrong.
from an interview with Kai Hibbard. She says, they would say things to contestants like, "You're going to die before your children grow up. You're going to die just like your mother. We've picked out your fat person coffin." One production assistant told a contestant to take up smoking because it would cut her appetite in half.
Jesus.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
Christ.
There's this very pervasive message throughout the show that fat people cannot trust their bodies. When a fat person says, like, my knees hurt, it's like, shut up, keep running. When fat people...
No, yeah, I get that. I get what they're saying there. Like I said, I do not believe in the no pain, no gain. I think, you know, it doesn't have to be like a horrific pain. You don't want to injure yourself. If you're morbidly obese, you're not healthy. Like, you don't need to act like an Olympic athlete or try to be one tomorrow. Like, take it slow, take it easy, like, build yourself up slowly over time. Don't be crazy about it. Like, you don't have to do all this stuff. And a lot of the benefit of exercise is actually in the recovery. So you need to recover. If you never allow your muscles to recover, they're never going to grow. It's like, be reasonable. Be reasonable. Your knees shouldn't hurt. Your muscles should hurt, not your knees, right? Not your joints, not your bones. If you're working out your butt and your butt muscles are on fire, like, it's okay, right? It's a muscle. Don't like pull it or whatever, but it's like there's going to be a little bit of discomfort in your muscles when you're working them out. It's going to burn a little or whatever. But your knees shouldn't feel like that. That's not good.
People say like this is too much or I'm not comfortable with this. We shouldn't believe them because that's the weakness that got them to this place in the first place.
Right. Fat people are not allowed to have boundaries.
Exactly. Injuries and things like joint pain or being short of breath. The 63-year-old guy passes out within 5 minutes of getting on a treadmill.
Yeah, that's not cool.
First episode, there's like, well, yeah, it's weakness leaving the body. Get back up there.
Wow.
Right. And even like a good faith, like if you assume good intentions from the show.
No. Yes.
Hard to do.
There's in the most recent season, like the wellness reboot season, there's a woman who fucks up her knee doing box jumps. And she's then like 2 minutes later seen on a rowing machine with an ice pack on her knee.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Also, a rowing machine is not using your knee.
Oh yeah, good point. I hadn't even thought about that. So it's no surprise that all of this abuse has.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people that are really crazy in terms of weight loss. Like, I will try to do some content about those people too. Like, it's a lot of these things continue to this day. Like, there is this mindset of like, do whatever it takes at any time to lose the weight as fast as possible. Like, this mindset is very pervasive and it's not good. It is not good at all. Like, breathe. It's not good to have that mindset of I will do anything to lose weight. I did that. It paid off horribly. I entered into a health crisis because I didn't care about my health. I only cared about losing weight, which is why I did keto. I just said, I don't care if keto is healthy. I'm going to do it because I don't want to be fat anymore. It didn't work. It caused a lot of damage. It's especially bad for somebody who's already hypo, which I already was at the time. And it caused a lot more metabolic damage. It caused so many problems for me. And you don't want to cause harm in your attempt to heal yourself. Like, really respect the fact that you're ill and don't do very challenging diets and very challenging workouts and very challenging fasts and very challenging, like, respect the illness that your body is currently in and go easy. When you get healthier and you want to go keto or you want to do carnivore, or you want to do this, or you want to do that, be my guest. Like, your body can take it at a lower weight and at a healthier zone. But when you're very unhealthy, don't just do whatever. You have to respect the fact that you are ill, that you could die. So go easy on yourself. Like I said, morbid obesity is like drowning. You can't panic with it. You have to let the waters slowly recede and think of it in that way. So don't get scared. Don't spaz, right? Don't do this stuff. Just do your steps, like, and then let it slowly recede with time. I will be so happy when I'm no longer morbidly obese. We are going to have to celebrate. Anyways, let's continue.
Produced a lot of injuries over the years. In 2009, 2 contestants on the same season were hospitalized from basically forcing them to run, and one of them passed out. There was one contestant who got stress fractures in her feet from being
It's horrible.
forced to do these jumps.
Right. We're just concerned about your health, which is why we're pushing you to the point of kidney failure.
Right, but don't act like everybody who's concerned about your health is telling you to do all this. I'm not telling people to do that, Aubrey.
Hospitalization. And wasn't somebody like flown in a helicopter to a hospital, like life flight?
The fact is, fat activists use The Biggest Loser like a weapon. Because yes, The Biggest Loser wasn't good. That doesn't mean that everybody who's trying to lose weight or everybody who is suggesting people to lose weight or trying to help people lose weight are exactly the same as The Biggest Loser.
Basically.
They called it heat exhaustion, but according to Kai Hibbard, that was basically from being forced to run.
Good Lord.
So, reason 4 why Biggest Loser is trash. People gain all the weight back.
Yeah.
So we talked about that, but the metabolic damage of that much of a caloric deficit, it's almost unavoidable that you're going to gain the weight back. It's usually your metabolism is already damaged, which is part of why you're at such a big size. And again, seed oil consumption will damage your metabolism. And a lot of fat people eat a lot of them. Trust me. Look at what I eat in a day videos. Like, we're going to have to do that on this channel at one point. We're going to look at what I eat in a day videos, and I'll point out how many seed oils these people are eating. But those do slow your metabolism pretty drastically. So you're already at a slower metabolism than most people. Then you crank up the deficit, then it slows down even more drastically. These people, I guarantee you, with the amount of hypo they must have been feeling from starvation, they probably were binging after getting home. And it isn't just mental illness. Like, that is physical binging. That is, your body is trying to recover nutrients and building blocks and things that you have been denying it for a long time. It's a survival mechanism at that point. And you can end up putting all the weight back on because your metabolism is so much slower, and people tend to eat a lot of seed oils and do a lot of this stuff, and they end up in an even worse position. It's horrible.
There was like a big New York Times story about this.
Yes.
My recollection is that what they found is that it permanently damages their metabolisms and makes it...
I don't know that it's necessarily permanent. I just think it would take a long time to recover. When I did keto, it damaged my metabolism. Absolutely. I couldn't lose weight for a year and a half of this protocol because my metabolism was so damaged. And that's from the binging I did. That's from, the post-keto binging I did. So like through the lack of carbs in my diet, it caused an appetite rebound that made me binge, especially on carbs. But a lot of times there would be like seed oils in it. So I'd eat like chips, for example. So it'd make it even worse. And then you go back to keto, and then it's like even worse for the thyroid. Then you eat the chips again because you quit keto. Then it's even worse, and it just layers and layers and layers. So my metabolism was so incredibly damaged that I had to avoid the seed oils for a year and a half. And I was so depleted. Like, I was eating Sour Patch Kids. I was eating hamburger patties, potatoes fried in bacon fat. Like, I was so hungry. It was like insatiable. Like, I don't know if people understand the insatiability after being on an overly restrictive diet. But if you do, I understand it completely. And it is something different than an emotional ED. It's very different because it's physically based. So there's not enough. This isn't talked about enough, but I guarantee you that's why they gain the weight back, because they're doing that post extremely restrictive diet binge and gaining weight like crazy because their metabolism is so slow. So again, it's not permanently damaged, but it would take them probably 2 years. It'd probably take about the same amount of time, if not longer, maybe 4 years to recover it. Like, you can always recover, but it takes years to recover. Like, it's not instant, and people don't like that. But anyways, I'll keep it real with you.
Almost impossible to lose weight in the future.
So at the average...
Unless if you restore it. But it's tough. It's a tough sell to tell people to do something when they're not going to lose weight because they have to fix their metabolism. Like, It was hard for me. But I had enough mental benefits, physical energy benefits. I had other things going on that kept me going, that kept me exploring it. And eventually my appetite regulated a bit by 6 months in, and I started eating more typical foods, you know, like yogurts, juices, fruits and stuff like that, and meats. And I actually went through a phase where I didn't eat very much meat, but it's like I kind of went through different phases throughout that time when I wasn't losing. I didn't eat those very hyperpalatable, you know, depleted foods for the whole time. But there was a time when I ate a ton of ice cream. You know, it's like, and things would kind of phase in and out over time. Because like I remember in the winter of 2022, I ate a lot of ice cream. A lot. Because I was like dying. I was so hypo. And it was like a huge boost to my body to have that. But by April of 2022, like I was just eating fruit and meat, and I was eating tons of meat and just like fruit and meat and cheese, you know, like I wasn't really having sugar anymore. It's like I just phased in and out of different things, you know, of what I needed to do at the time. I was eating a lot of protein. Over 2022, I would get like a chicken every single day. And then I started the deficit in in August of 2022. And I had to adjust a lot, and because I was able to do it. And it's like, it was a process for me. Like it wasn't just this instantaneous. And I was exercising consistently from October 2021 till August of 2022 when I could start the deficit. So I was very active. And again, like people don't consider that. Like I was very active as well, right? But anyways, let's continue.
Weight that contestants were at 6 years after the show, they should be burning around 2,600 calories a day, just like existing, but they're only burning 2,000, which means if they eat more than 2,000 calories a day, they will gain weight. And this is 6 years after.
Yeah.
So what's amazing is they actually did the same study 30 weeks after. So
like I said, it will tend to get worse with age. You have to recover it. So you have to actively recover your metabolism. It won't just happen. So yeah, they say it's permanent, but it's like, no, you have to do an active intervention and actually change things. Like you'd have to avoid seed oils. You'd have to lower your estrogen exposure in the environment. You have to, you know, go outside and like be in the sun sometimes, right? It's like there's a lot of holistic things that you have to do to maintain or to build back up your metabolism. Like it's not a one and done thing, and it's not something that's just going to magically come back. Like if you damage it, you have to heal it, period. So, and you have to do so holistically. Like if you can eat organic, that will improve your metabolism, right? It's like there's a lot of different steps to take, but people don't do any of that. They just keep eating Kraft macaroni and cheese and, you know, Takis and Tostino's pizza rolls, and then they're like shocked that 6 years later they're still the same metabolism. It's like, no, like it takes some effort. Like, come on.
Almost a year after they left The Biggest Loser, and then they did it again 6 years afterwards, and their metabolisms actually got slower over that time.
Yeah, it will tend to get slower with age anyways, so you have to like actually do stuff to restore it. It's not just going to restore.
Even as they gained a lot of the weight back.
This is sort of like, we sent these adults to fat camp, we filmed it so you can watch, and then we returned them to the lives that they were leading.
Yeah.
And now we're dismayed that they haven't been able to keep it up, and we've decided to sort of attribute that to their character or their emotional eating or some...
I agree with that. Takes a lot for me to agree with Aubrey, but she's right in this statement.
Kind of invisible pathology, right? That there's some kind of character weakness that must be leading them to
they were set up for failure.
weight gain. Not that hey, science actually doesn't know fully what makes some people fat and some people thin. And it is so much more comforting to approach that from a sort of lens of pathologizing fat people and standing in comfortable judgment of them.
Right.
Than it is to go, actually, this is really complex and some stuff we know and some stuff we don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are fat and that might be okay. Because again, then you don't have a show. Whoops.
I mean, one thing that did stick out to me was the fact that on average, the participants 6 years later were still in the obese category. So the average weight of participants when they got onto the show was 305 pounds. And by the end of the 6 years, all of the, diet, lifestyle, whatever, gaining, losing weight stuff, the average is 5'8" and 192 pounds.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me about that is that anyone putting up those numbers would go to the doctor and get weighed, and the doctor would start that conversation with, you need to lose weight, right? Because according to the numbers, they do need to lose weight. But the thing that fat people have been saying forever is just fucking ask people.
Yeah.
Before you have the conversation of like, did you know you need to lose weight? Ask people like, were you recently on a game show where you lost 50% of your body weight and then gained 25% of it back? That's really helpful context for like the kind of advice that your doctor should be giving you.
Right. And ask fat people what they've been eating. And when they tell you, believe them.
Yes.
Part of the reason that many doctors don't ask fat people questions about why we're fat or what we've done to sort of interact with our own fatness or try and get thin.
It only works if you're honest, though.
Or whatever, is that they fundamentally just don't believe our answers.
Yes.
So it feels like sort of a useless exercise, right?
Right. Okay, last reason. Are you ready?
Ready. Ready as I'll ever be.
You knew it was coming. The fifth reason why The Biggest Loser is trash is the effect that it has on like the rest of society. Like not just the people that are on the show, but everybody watching it.
Ugh, gross.
The Biggest Loser has been controversial for quite a while, and there's quite a few articles where people defend the show, like Jillian Michaels in interviews, various TV executives, producers, and the defense is always what we've heard a million times on the show, that it's raising awareness of the obesity epidemic and it's inspiring people to lose weight.
Which is not true, but
unaware of the obesity epidemic? Can you show me the people who are like, oh, I didn't know people think it's healthier to be thin than to be fat?
So this is from a New York Times article. J.D. Roth, an executive producer of the series who created its current format, says that while the show was extreme, it needs to be extreme, in my opinion. For some of these people, this is their last chance, he said. And in a country...
I know, but do you not see? This is one of the things that pisses me off so much about... about the Biggest Loser mindset or the fitness mindset is when they tell you it's your last chance, that you're dying, but therefore you have to do all this stuff like you're an Olympic athlete in the same breath. I will never say that to you. I don't think anybody should say that to you, because I do agree you are dying. If you are morbidly obese, it is killing you. You are very unhealthy. You're not doing well, so therefore you must be gentle. You must take things easy. You must lose the weight slowly over time and not overwhelm your system, because it is more fragile. And you should keep your stress as low as possible throughout the process. Doesn't mean having zero stress. It means keep it as low as possible, which does mean don't be shouted at. Don't be shouting at people that are morbidly obese. It's not helpful. Be kind, be patient. Go slower with things. Like, slower is always better than nothing. It's like, I heard people will say things to me sometimes like, oh, well, that's not good. And, you have to do this and you have to do that. And it's like, what matters is if you do this, is it going to put you in a better metabolic and hormonal system a year from now or a worse one? Like, think about it differently. Like, are the actions I'm taking today, even if it's just cutting out seed oils, is that going to put me in a better metabolic position a year from now where it's easier to lose weight or it's easier to get healthier? Yes, because it's a long game. People don't become morbidly obese in a day. It doesn't happen like that. It takes time. And damage is sustained over a period of time at being that size. But you have to realize it's going to take time to get it back down. And you have to rebuild things, and you have to be eating nutrients. Like if you didn't eat meat for 5 years, like eat meat for a year. That could be a huge step for you. You might have massive metabolic benefits. If you didn't eat carbs for a year, which I don't know any fat person that didn't, because you usually will have to. But if you didn't, eat carbs for a while, right? Like get it together. I mean, you have to meet people where they're at. Take things slow, keep it attainable. It has to be attainable. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, and I will say, like, you do have to want it. You cannot just, it's not going to magically occur. Like, you have to put some effort out. That's true. But that doesn't mean you have to eat 500 calories and burn 9,000 calories a day. That's not at all what that means.
Right now that's wrestling with healthcare issues and the billions of dollars that are spent on obesity issues per year. In a way, what a public service to have a show that inspires people to be healthier. Getting 100% to keep the weight off has never been the goal. The goal is, can we inspire people in America to make a change in their life?
They did the opposite.
And in that, we're batting 1,000.
Are you?
No, it's actually the opposite, because it makes people think losing weight is painful, horrible, and impossible.
There are more fat people now than there ever have been.
Right. And now there's fat acceptance as a response to this, and they use the show as a weapon.
Are you making a positive change? Are you doing what you think you're doing?
This is what I wrote in my notes. I wrote, are you though? This is not something that I've seen documented. I mean, you know, there's been various academic dissections of the...
I agree with them in this. This is not what they did.
Effect of The Biggest Loser and all these other weight loss reality shows. There's a Kaiser Family Foundation sort of analysis, like literature review of all the different studies that have been done. And they all do the same thing that we saw in the President's Physical Fitness Test, where they weigh the pros and cons of this show and of this kind of TV, and all of the pros are potential things, and all of the cons are actual things.
Look at all the stuff we could do but haven't done for the 50 years that we've been doing this garbage test that everybody hates. Like, no.
This is an excerpt from the Kaiser Family Foundation report. Reality TV has the potential to provide inspiration for lifestyle changes, such as weight loss or smoking cessation. Reality TV also gives a voice to normal, everyday people rather than stars, provides exposure to a broad range of human experiences not available in other programs, and may also provide viewers with a sense of personal validation, an awareness that there are people out there like me with the same kinds of problems that I have. No, it doesn't.
Fuck off.
What are the other health issues for which we weigh potential benefits against actual harms? The potential for The Biggest Loser to...
There's plenty. Plenty. I'm not going to get into that, but there's many, 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 many things within health that is the mindset.
Inspire people to lose weight.
I think it's relatively obvious within our context.
Like, okay, well, there's studies on this. Does this inspire people to lose? No!
Yeah.
So why would that even be relevant, this potential, when we know it does not inspire people to lose weight?
There have been some studies on looking at the effects of the sort of quote-unquote obesity epidemic messaging on how folks think about fat people in particular.
Right.
And what they've found is that all of that messaging increases bias toward fat people. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
If you call fat people a disease that is somehow threatening your health, it's not going to go great for your perception of those people. I'm curious about if anyone has done any looking into the effects of watching shows like The Biggest Loser. Did you find anything related to that?
There's actually 2 studies where they measure people's attitudes regarding fatness and fat people, and then they show them an episode of The Biggest Loser, and then they test them again. One of them finds that it doesn't give everybody fatphobic attitudes, but if you have existing fatphobic attitudes, it will make them worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It also seems like the thinner you are, the more likely you are to hold those views. So it seems to have this sort of radicalizing effect on thin people that watch The Biggest Loser.
Ugh.
There's another one that finds it doesn't necessarily affect fat phobia, but it does affect how controllable you think weight is. So at the root of
She was really scared of that one.
anti-fat bias is this idea that people can control their body weight, like Christian Bale gains and loses pounds for movie roles all the time. So why can't fat people do that? And so when you watch...
Right, which is why there needs to be education, which is what I try to do here. I'm trying to lift the veil on some of these things.
An episode of The Biggest Loser, it reinforces the message that like, oh, weight is easily manipulable, and you know, all they have to do is like eat better and exercise more, and then they'll be small. And so I don't really have to engage with whatever shitty beliefs I have about that.
Well, also all of those like actors gaining and losing significant amounts of weight sort of stories, when you read the interviews with the Christian Bales and whoever else's of the world, what they're talking about is like, for dinner, I melted a pint of Ben and Jerry's and drank it. And then, surprise, surprise, when they stop doing that, they lose weight, right? Like, that's not a one-to-one for my experience as a fat person who has been fat since grade school, middle school. Like, come on, guys.
I also think that even on its own terms, Biggest Loser does not motivate people to exercise and change their diets because, first of all, there's really no...
It's true. It doesn't.
Information on the show about healthy diets. Like it's not actually teaching people how to cook or like anything that people would actually need to know. Like here's how to saute some carrots for dinner. And then when it comes to exercise, there's some actually really good studies of the way that it depicts exercise.
It was horrible. It depicted it as painful, as horrible, as miserable. And it's like I said, there's a specific type of person where they do well with that. That's, you know, I think even Michelle McDaniel, right? She's a good example. Like she loved Jillian Michaels. She loved that yelling, shouting aspect. And that's okay. Like not everybody is sensitive. Not everybody's super emotional. Like totally valid. Do your thing. Like I don't care. I don't care if Michelle likes to be yelled at in a workout. I just don't. I don't think it's for everybody. So I think the issue I had is really that people saw that as successful, even though it really wasn't on the show. And so they project that way of losing weight onto everybody. And if that doesn't work for you, then you're a failure. And it's like, no, you're just different. And so I've said that before, like I try to advocate on this channel for a different way of doing things, especially for somebody who's more sensitive, more emotional, who wouldn't like being yelled at the gym, right? At least not yet. You know, maybe some people, they'll get healthier, they become less sensitive. I don't know. You know, who knows, right? But I try to advocate for another approach and another way of looking at it, because that way is not attainable for everybody. It's not attainable for me. It's not attainable for my mom. Like, it's not attainable for other people. Like, I think especially people that are prone to BED, I don't think it's helpful, because people that are prone to BED, we tend to be more sensitive and more anxious about certain things. And we tend to, you know, really, I think people that have BED, they tend to internalize negative messages about themselves very deeply. And so I don't think that those types of yelling and all this stuff is helpful at all for a lot of people that they're trying to help. I think the kind of person it would help is somebody that's not that far off. Like maybe they need to lose like 30 pounds or something, and they're not that sensitive, and they just like to eat a lot because it tastes good, right? Like those kind of people, I think it could work. So it's like, this isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. I have nothing against somebody if they like being yelled at the gym. Like, do your thing. Like, go for it, right? But I don't like that personally. Like, I like doing things on my own at the gym. I like being by myself and being in control of what I'm doing at the gym. And that's what works for me. And people are going to have different approaches. So just keep in mind, like, it's valid to do it that way. It's valid to listen to your body. It's valid to do things this way. Like, don't feel like you're less than. Don't feel like you're better than other people either. Like, you're not, but you're not less than.
On the show, because a really important aspect of this is that exercise is always cast as torture. Exercise is your
only works for a certain group, as I said.
Punishment for being fat.
Yep.
Like, that is the overwhelming message that you get about exercise from this show.
It's not good, in my opinion. I don't think it's good to view it as a punishment. I think even people that like the Jillian Michaels approach, they just like the challenge aspect. They like the fight and the competitiveness and that combativeness of the workout. Like, and that's completely valid, and I think it's great. And you know, if we're being honest, there's a part of me that would probably find that type of quality attractive in a guy, you know, because I'm not that way. And it's interesting to me. So it's not a bad thing to be that way. It's just I'm not that way. And a lot of people are not that way. And a lot of women are not that way. And a lot of this are not that way. Like, there's a lot of people, a lot of men are not that way. Like, a lot of people don't like that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with us for not. There's nothing wrong with you for liking it either. But it's just, yeah, like, keep it 100, you know?
And most of the exercise that people are doing on the show is fucking miserable.
Yeah.
It's like box jumps and like lifting weights above your arms 50 times. And like, I say this as somebody who goes to the gym pretty frequently. Not everyone likes going to the gym.
Yeah.
And there's never anything on The Biggest Loser for like, hey, maybe you really like biking. Like, maybe for you, go for a long bike ride and listen to a podcast. Or maybe for you, it's team sports. Maybe play field hockey with some friends on Wednesdays every week. Like, there's no exploration of how...
Or just have a job that's active, or, you know, just do certain things. Like, just consider it. Consider activity. Like, you need to make activity a part of your life on a daily basis. And I think if you can do that, then that's a huge step forward for somebody overweight. It's huge.
A lot of people really like forms of exercise, but they don't know which forms of exercise they like. The only way you ever see exercise on the show is at a gym where you have to fucking pay for it.
The best thing to start with is just walking for a very fat person. Walking on an even incline, so like an even, like, no slope, you know, just flat ground. Like, that's going to be a fat person's best friend. And just work up to being able to do that. Start there, and you're going to be better after a few months. Like, it's really the best thing. But if you're not there yet, then work your way up to that. Even if it's just 5 minutes. Like, just work your way up to it is all.
And with like someone yelling in your face as you're throwing this like fake rubber ball on a wall back and forth.
Yeah. The Biggest Loser is essentially just recreating fat kids' experience of PE.
The president's...
Okay, that's a bit much, Audrey, but whatever. My PE experience, I did not like it. It was really embarrassing, but it was never like as bad as The Biggest Loser. It just, I mean, running for 10, 20 minutes, which I don't think is good for somebody that's fat. Like, I don't think it was good for me, to be honest. It was too much. But doing that is not at all comparable to working out for like hours a day and not eating any food. Like, it's just not a comparison, Audrey. Like, you're lying. Aubrey. Oh my God. Aubrey. I swear I'm never going to get her name right.
Test.
And the president's physical
Full
fitness
circle.
test, right? Like, all of it, right? Which is just like, you are being publicly humiliated. Exercise is your penance for...
That's so dramatic. I just can't. Oh my God. Like, has she ever been publicly humiliated before? Like, I mean, geez.
daring to have this body.
Yes.
And you have to punish yourself in public.
Oh my
so that
gosh.
people know how apologetic you...
So extra. So extra. I mean, it's just so dramatic. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous.
You are.
Yeah.
I will say for my own self, the thing that helped me figure out what kinds of movement I liked was being able to do those away from other people. Because as it turns
That's good. It's good that she's active. I don't know how active she is, but like I said, girl, that is one step towards the deficit. I know she doesn't want to hear that, but it's good. If you've been active, it would be easier for you than somebody who hasn't been.
out, the thing that made it fucking miserable for me were people who would stare at me while I exercised. The people who would say, "Good for you, you'll get there." The thing.
Okay, well, you're weird then. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You gotta grow up, Aubrey. You gotta grow up. Like, I've been congratulated at the gym when I was bigger. I don't really get that anymore, but as you guys know, I'm mid-fat, so that means I'm invisible now, which is fine. But when I was first starting, like, I would get those kind of congrats and stuff and, like, thumbs up and stuff at Planet Fatness. And I wasn't offended by it. Like, I don't know. Like, just grow up. Are you 16? Like, I get it if you're like a 16-year-old or something. Like, you trip out about dumb stuff all the time. But it's like, grow up.
What was hardest for me was always the sort of social response to a body like mine in motion.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's such a weird thing to say.
All of the other research about this, because
I will say, though, when I was in college, I went to the gym at the college, and I swear, this was back in like 2011. Like, I literally they were like, oh my, like, they were just all staring at me. It was crazy. And they were like kind of like frat and sorority types at that gym. Like, it was kind of known for that. And they were just like so shocked that I was there. I felt like a whale. It was just like really embarrassing. So I understand, like, a lot of people don't like Planet Fatness. Just kidding, Planet Fitness. But Planet Fitness is actually a better atmosphere for a fat person. Like, I hate to say it, but I do go there, and I do think it's better than if I were to go to Equinox or something. Like, I think it would definitely be a different experience for me. Not that I would never go to Equinox, but I wouldn't go at this size. Like, I do think there is some social stigma BS at like bougie gyms and stuff like that. Like, people kind of trip out a little bit, in my opinion. And again, that was 10 years ago. Like, it could be totally different today, but that was my experience at that gym. It was weird. And I mean, I was the only fat person in there, so I don't know, but it was too weird for me. So that I can kind of understand, but you go to a Planet Fitness, whatever. There are other gyms. One of my friends, she went to an elderly person's gym where it was designed for elderly people. It's like, you don't have to go to like bougie, like gay wannabe model, like gym where it's like, you don't look good. Like, why are you here? Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go to the sorority and fraternity gym at school. Like, you don't have to. There's other options.
Research like this, qualitative research on sort of watching The Biggest Loser with fat people and doing like a content analysis on just like their reactions, is watching The Biggest Loser has the same effect on fat people as fat shaming, in that it increases their motivation.
That is not necessarily true, but whatever.
To lose weight, but it doesn't increase their ability. So watching The Biggest Loser and having like Jillian Michaels look at the camera and shout at them, all the shit we saw in the clip, that makes people think like, oh my God, I have to lose weight. I'm going to die if I don't lose weight. It's so imperative for me to lose weight. But it doesn't give them enough money to buy fresh fruit at the grocery store. It doesn't give them a gym membership. It doesn't actually give them any counseling for whatever other issues they have. Like, it doesn't actually do anything.
Totally. And there are different sort of shades of motivation.
Yeah.
When I have watched The Biggest Loser, the motivation is, I don't want that lady to yell at me ever.
Yeah.
Right? The motivation isn't to lose weight for my own good or my own health. It is to avoid abuse, which is not a great sustainable kind of motivation.
No, you just have to hire Jillian Michaels to be in your house at all times.
I don't want that.
She's on her way, Aubrey. She'll be there in 15 minutes. Was I not supposed to send her to your house? So last little section, we're going to do like a little epilogue because I thought this was kind of funny.
Okay. I don't know if we can handle the epilogue, so I'm going to move on. Or I'm going to finish. I'm tired. It's late, but thank you guys so much for watching. That was really intense, honestly. I will just say that it was a weird episode. It was difficult. I do agree with a lot of what they're saying, but obviously there were so many caveats and so much in context and so many things that I had to cover, because the fact is the weight loss conversation is definitely gray. Like, you need to think of it in a gray mindset. It's not black and white, especially not for morbid obesity. It just isn't the same. It's not as linear. It's not as simple. It doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just means that many things have to be considered, and you have to think of it as a long game, and it's a process, and you have to love yourself through it, and just be gentle as possible, because you are dying. You are, but just be gentle with it because of it. Like, it's okay to use kid gloves in the beginning until you get better. Like, I will say I am better now. Like, I'm more intermediately unhealthy. I have moderate hypo now. It's different. It's a very, very different position. So I can be a little bit more. Like, I can do a little bit more. Like, I can possibly work out more or do certain things. Like, I'm considering things now. I can put more on my plate, and to a certain extent. Like, and it's okay. Like, I can do a little more. And as you get healthier, you can do more and more and more. And you just kind of continue on an upward trajectory over time. And that's the way you do it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was educational in any way, shape, or form. I hope that I increased your understanding a little bit on the topic of obesity. Once again, if you like this, please do like the video, and please do subscribe. I have many other videos like this on my channel. I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. Bye.